what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and this time we're going to do something a little bit different. A lot of people over the last 6 or 7 months have been doing these vinyl tag videos, and Billy just did his, and after watching his, I decided to go ahead and do one. A lot of these are pretty cool. It's pretty good question. It's a series of 20 questions about vinyl and collecting, and again, I've watched a bunch of them over the last 6 or 7 months, and I wanted to do it a couple of times, but after watching Billy's, it kind of made me want to do it real quick. And I haven't been around lately. Sorry about that. I've gotten a bunch of emails from people. And jiu-jitsu, about 2 weeks ago, I got injured. I ended up spraining my rib, which I didn't even know was a thing until I did it. And I also tore one of the muscles in my stomach lining. Which sucks. I've been in a lot of pain. I can't sleep laying down. I'm sleeping in a chair. I can't sit down for more than a half an hour, or it starts hurting really bad. They got me on all kind of crazy medication here. So hopefully that gets better soon. But I'm to the point now where I can sit down long enough to make one of these videos. So let's just jump into it. The first question is, how many records do you have in your collection? I've got about 2,500. That's according to Discogs. I know there's still a bunch over here in the new pile, and that I haven't gone through yet. There's probably another, I don't know, 100 or 200 or so there that I just haven't gotten to yet. So in that general area, though, what kind of record player do you have? I have a Technics SL1200. Kind of the king of record players, most famous for being used by most radio stations back in the day. Just about every DJ used the SL1200. It's a great turntable. Technics just started making them again, although they made a much more advanced version of the SL1200. How old were you when you started collecting records? That's kind of a hard one. I got my first record player, oh man, I must have been like 5 or 6 years old. I got one of those Fisher-Price record players, and that was my main means of listening to music back then. So and then probably 7 or 8, I got my first all-in-one stereo that had a record player and a tape deck. And from that point, most of what I listened to was tapes, and that was simply because, I would dub tapes from everybody else, or borrow from my dad's collection, or, borrow records from my dad's collection. So I wouldn't technically call myself a collector at that point, but I already was. I was getting blank tapes and recording my dad's stuff, or dubbing my dad's tapes so I could have a copy of my own. So I've always been a music collector of sorts, and I did have, a number of records early on, starting at like 5, 6 years old. I had my own records. But most recently, I've seriously been collecting since probably, I started in the early 90s when I was DJing. I was DJing in clubs all over Japan, all the different bass clubs, and a couple of out in town as well. And some of the clubs I went to were turntables, so I had quite a bit of vinyl, and then the other half of the clubs used the DIN and CD, dual CD DJ stations, and this is before the CDJ 1000s came out, or CDJ 100s came out, and all that stuff. So in the 90s, I started buying a lot of vinyl and a lot of CDs as well. But most recently, I just started seriously collecting, and most of that stuff from the 90s is gone. In the early 2000s, when downloading became real popular, I burned a lot of my stuff to computer, and ended up selling off most of my CDs and what vinyl I had, which, I still kick myself for, especially as I'm going back and buying a lot of stuff that I had back then, But most recently, I've seriously been collecting for about 5 years now. So 2011, 2012-ish, I started buying vinyl again. I just got sick of the quality of the MP3s, and I just love the whole experience behind it. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Let's see, the oldest record that I own. So I believe this is the oldest one I own. I've got some old Patsy Cline 45s that are pretty old, but I don't remember if those were from the mid-50s or the mid-60s. But this is Bradley Mundy and his orchestra. And on side A, it's Willie's theme. And side B, it's What's Gong On There, which was from a TV show or a movie. If you heard the song, you would know it, more than likely. I knew it. But I found this at a thrift store for like 45 cents, so I grabbed it. And it's a promo copy. And this is from like 1959. And these go for pretty good money. They go for 40, 50 bucks. I keep saying I'm going to list it, and I just forget about it. So I'm going to leave it out this time because I've got no reason to keep it. You know, it's not really something I listen to. What is the first record you ever got? I don't remember. Again, I was 5 or 6 years old when I got my first record player, and I got some records with it. I know I had some Kenny Rogers. I want to say I had The Gambler that my mom gave me. And I know I had some Disney records and maybe some Creedence Clearwater, again, stuff that my mom was really big into. She was the one that got it for me. She was the one that got me the records. So it was one of those. Was the first that I got. The first record that you bought with your own money. It's one of two. It's either the Fat Boys or Back, which I still have, and that was from 86 maybe, 86 or 87, when we lived in Germany. I remember buying that one, and again, I still have it at my dad's house in his collection. And the other one was, this is going to sound funny, but it's California Raisins Sing the Hits. And it sounds funny just because it's California Raisins. Why would I buy that? But it was actually a Motown album. It's all Motown songs. And the singer was Buddy Miles. Even though he's not credited, I looked it up years later and found out that Buddy Miles was the drummer and the singer for that album, which is really cool. But, you know, a lot of the Motown stuff that I got into because of that comp from, 85 or 86, whenever that was. And I got those right around the same time. So I don't remember which one I got first. Let's see. Favorite colored vinyl. I've shown this one before. I've had this question come up before. It would probably be this one. This is Loaded from the Velvet Underground. One of my favorite Velvet Underground albums. And this one is on this really cool pink, purple, white, and blue. I just always thought that was really cool. And what I love about it, it's not an arbitrary color, what you see with a lot of records. It actually matches the album cover, which is something that I really like about it. It never made sense to me when you get a band with like a black and green album cover, and then they put colored vinyl in there, and it's like purple. It doesn't match the album. But this was a really good reissue. This was from Record Store Day, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I've had this one for quite a while. So let's see. Next question. What's a discount album you own? I don't know. I thought about this one. There's so many albums that I've gotten at thrift stores for 75 cents. I got one of the I'm drawing a blank here. One of the Guns N' Roses albums for $1, that I later ended up selling for like 80 bucks, just because I'm not a huge Guns N' Roses fan outside of their debut. There's been a bunch. I'll just use that Guns N' Roses, I guess. Oh, you know what? I did pull one out for discount. This is actually one that I totally forgot. I pulled this out. I got this from the thrift store about a year ago. This is In the Beginning from Genesis. This is the San Francisco Genesis. It's kind of a psychedelic album along the lines of maybe early Jefferson Airplane. And this goes for like $30. But I picked that up again for like 70 cents at Goodwill. I totally forgot that I pulled that out. Let's see what's next. Most prized possession. It would probably one of these here. This one's real special to me. This one was a gift from Scott Waters. That's Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo. And it's the story behind that. Not just the fact that it was a gift from Scott, but that was a gift to him from a good friend of his. And I felt really honored that he passed that on to me. This one here, the David Lee Roth album, is signed by Steve Vai. That was a gift from SMF Captain Howdy. So I really appreciate that one. And I can't remember if the AC/DC was a gift or if that was a trade. But the signed AC/DC is also. But any of these, the signed ones here from my Motley Crue, Megadeth, Ozzy. I mean, these are my favorite artists ever. And to have these signed on my wall is awesome. So I would say any of those. Record by a female artist. I'm trying to mix it up so that a lot of this stuff I could have just grabbed metal, so I'm trying to mix it up so that it's not just metal. This one's a favorite of mine. I've got all the albums from this band. The singer is Patricia Day, and this is Horror Pops. Horror Pops is a psychobilly band. It's kind of a spin-off of the Necromantics. Kim Necroman plays in the band. His wife is Patricia Day, the singer. And I was a big fan of the Necromantics. I heard about this and grabbed this as well. Again, I've got all three of their albums. They're all three phenomenal. Just really good psychobilly. This is one of those bands that the psychobilly community likes to trash. Kind of like Tiger Army. And I've never quite understood it because they're a really good band. And most of those same people really like Necromantics. And he's the driving force behind Necromantics as well. So I've just always found that to be kind of odd that they kind of go after that band. Album by your favorite band. That one's really hard. I mean, it could be this is a favorite of mine. Motley Crue. Megadeth is a favorite of mine. Black Sabbath is a favorite of mine. So I went ahead and pulled this one. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. And this band is definitely a favorite of mine. This is Anima from Tool. Just an amazing, amazing album. I love this album beginning to end. I actually love everything that they've released from beginning to end. It's just, again, it's just one of my favorite bands. I don't think we need to talk about Tool too much. Let me see. An impulse buy. I couldn't think of anything for that. When I go out buying records, I'm there buying records, so there's not really any impulse buys, I may run across something and buy it based on the cover or just think it looks cool or sounds cool, but I wouldn't really call those impulse buys because that's what I'm there looking for, So I didn't pull anything for that. I just couldn't think of anything that was an impulse buy. Number 13, a gift from somebody. Again, that would probably go back to the ones that I mentioned. Probably the most special gift here is the signed Nugent from Scott Waters. Most played record. I just did for the last year. It's hard to say the most played record that I own. There's a bunch of records that I play pretty regularly. But for the last year, this has been the most played. I've talked about this a bunch of times. This is with Whips and Chains from Savage Master. This was one of my favorite releases of the year. I've also gone to see the band, and you can see it's signed by the entire band as well. That one's also female-fronted, so I got to put that in the female-fronted. And it's also colored vinyl, so that one kind of hits a bunch of different areas. A rarity. One of my rare albums, and I've got both with Ripper Owen singing, but this is probably the rarer of the two. This is Judas Priest Demolition. This seems to be the hardest one to come across, and the price just keeps going higher and higher on these things. I've got both albums with Ripper Owens, but that's probably the rarer of the two. A Rainy Day Record. So when I think of Rainy Day Record, I think of kind of a dark album. And a couple I've thought about, but this is the one that came to mind first. And this is probably one of the darkest albums I own. This is Benji from Sun Kill Moon. Just an amazing album. I highly recommend checking this one out. He's a neo-folk artist. He was a singer from Red House Painters back in the 90s. Just amazing singer-songwriter stuff here. Super dark. It's him just telling stories from his life. It's funny, I was watching somebody's video about a year ago. They were doing a QA video. And this is a guy that's hardcore into like black metal and death metal and all the really dark satanic stuff, deicide stuff like that. And they asked him what's the darkest album that he's ever heard. And he pulled out Benji, which is just a guy telling life stories. But it really is dark, really is amazing, just amazing storytelling. Feel Good album. That's an easy one for me. This is one of my, probably my all-time favorite album. I'm always in the mood to listen to this, and this is one that I love listening to. It just gets me going. And that's Act as Bold as Love from Jimi Hendrix. Let's see. Try to get through these. Where are we at? 15 minutes, 16 minutes. All right, a nostalgic record. I've talked about this a bunch of times. This one always takes me back to my childhood. It's an amazing album. It's AC/DC Back in Black. And I've talked about this a bunch of times. My dad had a copy of this on cassette. And I used to just ride around as a kid on my bike, just pumping that album. At 10 years old, I knew that album. Every riff, every drum beat, every lyric, I just loved it. And it's funny, I don't listen to it that much now because I did so much back then. But every time I pop it on the record player, it takes me back, to the mid-'80s when I was in Germany. So let's see. RSD purchase. I've already showed a couple of them here. See if I have anything here in front of me from... I don't think I do. But I most recently bought the Iron Maiden. I just showed that Loaded from Velvet Underground a few minutes ago. That's one of my record store day purchases. There's so many. I've been going to record store days for 5 or 6 years now. So, and I always buy 3 or 4 albums. So there's a bunch of stuff in the collection. And then last but not least, a recent purchase. So this is one I just picked up a couple of hours ago. I've been looking for this whole series. I think there's either 4 or 5 12 inches in this series. But this is the Combat Boot Camp series. Scott was the first one to turn me on to it. I think Eric Dust has shown a couple of them. But this is the release from Napalm. Napalm started off as a thrash band going by the name Combat. They changed their name to Napalm. I think this was 80. They came out in like 83, 84. Then they changed their name to Napalm. This was from 85, I believe. I'm not seeing it right now. Yeah, so this is from 85. They released a few albums through the 90s, and then they just came back in like 2011 and 2012 as Combat again. So, but this is the first album I've got from that series. It's Napalm. And what's cool about this is it's signed by the whole band. And then it's also got this little promo slip in there as well. And I don't think any of the other guys have shown the album with the little promo information. So I thought that was really cool. And information how to contact the band and book them there in New York. So I'm thinking maybe this was something that they sold at one of their shows. But very cool find. Again, I just picked that one up today. So that's it, guys. That's my 20 questions. I hope to see a few more of you do this. This was kind of fun, just going through and pulling up some stuff from the past. In the background, we're listening to the deluxe edition of Pyromania. This is the second disc. This is live at the LA Forum 1983. So very cool. Worth picking up if you run across that. That's it, VC. I'll put the questions down below so you can go ahead and do one of these videos yourself. Take care. See you soon.